Hello, everyone. It is the Zelda Dungeon YouTube crew back at it again.
What up?
And we are continuing our Tears of the Kingdom dungeon. Are you okay, Corey?
We got Dirtbag Corey over here.
You're seeming
Yeah,
kinda...
I'm fine. What of it?
What a beginning to a very emotional episode. I think they won't be that emotional.
We're
I'll
feeling
cry.
spicy today.
We're all gonna cry.
We were talking about how spice is the spice of life.
Yeah.
So we're being spicy today.
Goron
The
spice.
age-old saying.
So we've talked about the 4 main dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom, and we're going to tack on another. But first, when you beat those, you can go back to Lookout Landing. I think we should talk about this because this is kind of a cool
It's
part
important.
of the game. All the crews are assembled, but the music, it's got that chill music, but there's a little bit of a...
Not only that, before you even go talk to Pura, there's just no music. It's just absolutely
right? Okay,
silent until you go talk to Pura, and everyone's just like staring at the castle. And it is a very haunting moment. It's creepy.
Chilling.
It is. It's like, something's up. Like, obviously things have been bad, but like, what's going on? And then you get that cut scene where you look through the telescope and you see Zelda, and then you get the Lookout Landing music back mixed in with the Hyrule Castle music, and it's in like a minor key.
That is scary.
It's so good.
I think I know the answer to this question, but for me, when this happened and they're like, go up there, that I went up there, and that was my first time going to the top level before I had explored kind of the bottom portion. Or I might have gone up there. Either way, I hadn't gotten any like shrines or anything up there. So this is the first time I like extensively went up there. But I'm assuming, just based on our history with the game, that everyone else had previously gone up there and like explored it in its entirety.
Yeah.
A
I
little
went
bit.
up there before I had the paraglider.
What?
Because
That's a boring move.
I explored that first, and then is when I went down and through the caves and came back into Lookout Landing. Remember I was telling you that I was going
That's
through?
right. You went backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been through the caves and stuff, but I hadn't gotten to the raised part. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to go up there yet.
Oh, I built something.
Jeez Louise.
McKenna, do you remember exploring up there for the first time? Was this it?
No. I went up much earlier. It was after I got the paraglider, because I think the way I got there was I went up to... It might have been the Great Sky Island, and I dove down. So I paraglided over. This must have been after I got Tulin, because I think you need to...
Yeah.
I would have needed to use his ability to get there. So I did explore. I think I explored most of it at that time. I went to the sanctum because I wanted to know what was going on in there.
What happens? when
I
you
did
get in
a
there?
quick save in case I had to do a save and quit to get out of there real quick before anything crazy happened. Nothing too crazy happened. There's a fun puzzle, fun classic light the torches puzzle in there.
Oh yeah.
And then I did climb to the top of the castle. I was like, is there still a Korok there? And there is. He's still hanging out there.
He's got
Classic
a
spot.
I wonder
there's
if
some
it's
goodies
the
up there.
same. Is it the same? I wonder if it's the same exact Korok, because I wonder
That
if they look
would be awesome.
He never left.
same leaf.
He never left.
Right? He probably.
I like it up here. What can I say?
Wait, so McKenna, that means you found that bow too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the first, I guess you could get it. Could you get it in Breath of the Wild with an amiibo?
Yes,
Or was
with
that-
like any
okay.
Twilight Princess amiibo, you had a chance of getting it, I think.
So yeah, I found that. That was like the first DLC kind of or amiibo kind of item that I found, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Is this like canon lore here, or what's the deal with that?
It's such a strange spot, and I don't know why they decided to put a dusk bow at the top part of the castle in like a little caved in portion of the roof. But it looks like it had always been there, but that portion of the roof like caved in and it had been like hidden up there. So it's like, what does that mean? I don't know.
The lore heads are on
all
it.
that DLC stuff. But
The
like,
lore
remember,
in this is ridiculous.
Remember the episode that you guys did that I wasn't able to do, where you just had like pictures and stuff?
Oh, I remember that episode well. Oh,
I had
one
pictures.
of the best episodes ever. For some reason, I don't know why.
All right, Goo. I had some pictures lined up that I wasn't able to send to you guys for that because I didn't have time. One of the early ones I had was of me up at the top of Hyrule Castle with the bow, just like hanging there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Aw, that's cool.
Yeah, for me, I had gone up to get the Korok because I assumed the same thing as McKenna. I got that bow. I had been to Hateno Village by then, so I had read Zelda's journal about the puzzle, and so I got the champion leathers, and that's what kind of like encouraged me to go up there. I think I had done it after a few dungeons though. Like it wasn't like early game for me, but it was before this for sure.
My getting up there was like one of the it was like one of the less like dramatic or satisfying ways of getting there. Like every time I've approached an area, I've, like I said, kind of followed the path and then been like, how do they, if I'm coming from this way, like how's kind of like, what's the thing they want me to attempt here? And I was like looking at it from different angles on the ground mostly. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I should do. And then I was trying to build stuff, but like I had limited resources and like almost no zonite. So I'm trying to build stuff out of like what I have, and I'm just making the worst flying crafts ever. And I'm just like, they're crashing down. I'm like, okay. So then I just warped up to a sky island and dove on there, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
that's honestly
that's
though, that's
strategy,
how I got around most places. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna warp to the Great Sky Island, like the Room of Awakening, and that's like as high as you can warp really early on, obviously. So I'd go there. I had a ton of wings, and I would just do the trick where you can like be paragliding and drop a wing and land on it. So I would do that, and I'd fly around, and that wing would like
that trick.
It would go out.
I tried it. I couldn't.
It's a cool trick.
Could not accomplish it.
It's not too tough. The big thing is like you have to stop in midair, like don't go forward. Just like slowly let yourself just kind of hang there. You quickly like release a wing, and it will release in front of you. So as you like leave the menu, you hold forward, and then immediately let go of the paraglider. So you like let go and move forward a little bit and land directly on the wing, and you just glide, and you just go forever. It's definitely like cheating a little bit, but it helped me out a lot, so I used it quite a bit.
Game.
I always
forget that I can do this, but like I warp up to high islands, and like pretty early on in the game, I got the full glide suit. And upgraded them to like at least the second level. So like when you're skydiving and you go to one side, it moves you so fast.
Did you guys ever use them in the labyrinths? Like in the sky portion of the labyrinths?
Probably like one piece. I think I did most of the labyrinths before I had the full thing.
So I had the full thing before I did any of the labyrinths. And if you're in the sky portion of the labyrinths and you're like sprawled out like skydiving formation, with the full wingsuit, you move around so fast. It is ridiculous because they're low gravity, you have an updraft, and the full glide suit. So Link, like, you just tilt to the side and he's like, it's so funny. You can just like go through the labyrinth. Y'all should try this at home. It's really fun. Unfortunately, after you finish the sky labyrinths, the updraft shoots you all the way up to the top. So start a new save file and do it again.
The movement is awesome on that.
Yes, I fully agree.
I like when this portion of the game, I thought it was pretty fun, actually. I liked it a lot. It reminded me of Hyrule Castle, A Link to the Past, where, you know, after that well, in A Link to the Past, it's more of a halfway point, but after you complete, the first set of dungeons, you go up to the castle, and it's basically just like a melee of enemy encounters.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it, just like kind of running around the castle, then getting into a room and having to take down all the enemies.
The setup is like cool. I feel like the setup is so good and fitting because it's like what they've done the rest of the game for most of the regional phenomenons. It's like Zelda's appearing here and it's like, what's she doing? Oh, we can't get to her in time. And then it's like she's leading you and you're being led and you know that it's not her, but it's like very spooky.
Oh,
the Zelda imposter.
Did you guys get lost a lot trying to find her each time?
A little bit. I think
I got a little lost.
One of the last times you have to go like down, and I don't know. You got
like really
like a weird
small
way
ledge.
You have to like glide in there or something.
Yeah, it's under that portion with the 2 likes above it, and then there's the small entryway. It's just one short hallway. That's a bunch of likes right before she goes to the central chamber there, the sanctum. But like, I got lost a little bit.
It reminded me a lot of the Rito, the Wind Temple, because it was a lot of like not like super complex like figuring out where to go, but often like I actually had pull out my map and kind of see like, okay, like they do a good job, I think, of marking the openings, so I'd be like, okay, if I jump down from here, like I can't see it, so it was kind of fun because I was sort of taking a leap of faith, like okay, hopefully this is right, and I would jump and then I'd see it and be like, whew, it was pretty exciting.
Most of the chambers were connected pretty naturally. Like it's like you're on one floor and then it ends, the map ends with a set of stairs, and then like if you go up one floor you can see it's just like connected and keeps going around and stuff.
I did a lot of backtracking, which I think was my issue. I'd be like, all right, let me go back out and see where I can get to next. No, should have just kept going.
Yeah, see, that's like when I already explored the castle, so I was like, all right, let me just go to this glowing dot on the map and just keep pressing forward.
Yeah, I was not good at that. But those little battles were tough. I definitely died a couple times because they were like, one of them specifically, a moblin comes, like, he spawns in behind you. And so if you go forward and like take out the ice keys, and you just don't notice that there's a full black moblin behind you, you're screwed. That killed me. I was like, what even hit me? And I like turned the camera and I'm like, oh, there's a full moblin right there. Oops.
I didn't have any armor like fully upgraded, but
you were playing all natural, just no armor at all.
No, fully immersing himself.
Well, I was gonna say on the flip side, I had a ton of hearts, so it was kind of okay for a challenge for me. I went pretty heart heavy in this playthrough, so I could take a big hit and then like eat something really quick.
Yeah. But then you get up to the sanctum, and what a moment! What a moment!
So
my god!
Who wants to describe it?
I think McKenna. I've heard you describe this. You should.
I've described this before. Okay,
you have. I've heard you talk about this. Like this moment was so
what happened.
Cool.
Okay, so
I want to know your reaction.
It's been a second since I saw this. Okay, so Zelda's there, and she finally starts talking to you, but she's talking to you in her creepy voice. Her Blood Moon, her Tears of the Kingdom Blood Moon voice, which is like, that ain't my Zelda.
It's
weird trance Zelda.
Yeah, it's like almost it's seductive because
it is.
She's showing him a vision of Hyrule Castle as it once was, and it's all its glory, and just presenting him with this, and then you realize, I don't remember how it transitions.
I don't either.
it's that last moment where, and like it works with both her line and the music at the same time. I can't remember exactly what she says because she says some weird stuff right here.
Yeah.
But it's that moment where she's like basically saying, and it's like, and it could all be yours, but you know it won't be. And the music goes like and then like she's right in the middle,
no.
and then the giant Phantom Ganon comes up behind her, and it's like, oh crap, she wasn't the real Zelda.
Surprise!
But then there's that moment where Ganon, Phantom Ganon's like, my puppet like fooled you, and we're all like, okay, no, it didn't. But also, and it's like she does that like weird like little puppet like,
oh yeah,
and that's like, oh, Zelda,
so creepy.
But you like, no, it's not her, so it's like okay, but it still hurts a little bit. Oh,
little puppet Zelda action.
I know, little Twilight Princess.
Cool,
it was
very
we got a
great, like
boss battle.
This whole game has been like formatted in like this mystery of like, where's the real Zelda and who are these fake Zeldas and what's going on and I like that we get the full blown reveal of like, it was Ganondorf. He was literally controlling these doppelgangers the whole time, like causing all this, directly causing all this crazy stuff to happen.
It's pretty
cool. Get a lot of dialogue from him.
Yes. And I'm trying to there's a lot of like epic Ganondorf dialogue.
Yeah.
This is the moment,
was a really cool encounter.
Yeah, this is the moment where it's like at this point I've fought a lot of Phantom Ganons and I was like pretty solid with it. And I was like, oh, this will be easy. I got it. And then there's like 8 Phantom Ganons attacking you at once. And I'm like, I can't do this.
I almost died in this fight.
Me too.
Because I was like going around and trying to kill the other ones, and the gloom was just spreading. And at one point, it's covering the entire room, and I'm just losing hearts. And I'm like, oh my god, what do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like... I think I just ended up like, all right, I gotta focus on the main one, and I smacked him, and then all the gloom went away.
Yeah.
I got him. I don't think I realized that you could smack him to get rid of all the gloom, because I think all the times I had fought him before, I just killed him so quickly that I didn't even know that was happening.
Well, my first time encountering Phantom Ganon, that happened where it was the top of Akala Citadel. I can't believe I just called it Akala Citadel.
Akala Citadel.
Akala Citadel. And I like took out the hands and was like, yeah, I did it. And then it's all of a sudden like Phantom Ganon. And I was like, and I like ran away from him. And then I noticed he got like stuck behind a building and gloom just started spreading. And I was like running away thinking he was chasing me, but he wasn't. And then he kind of despawned and all the gloom went away. And I was like, what happened?
Excuse me?
I'm scared.
Yeah. The encounters with Phantom Ganon and like the gloom spawn throughout the whole game kind of like prep you for this. And those first encounters were some of the scariest moments I've had in this game, where it's like, this feels like a horror game. And then right here, it's like you get another one popping up. It's like, I've dealt with this guy before. And then it's just one after another. And it's that, like, I had that feeling of like, I think I might be overwhelmed here. This is a little scary. This is a very immersive moment.
Yeah.
I thought this was a very fun fight. It was very tough, but well, it's one of those things where it's always depending on how much stuff you have going on.
And it's nice that the sages are helping fight alongside you.
They come in that moment, like the halfway point of the battle, epic. Right? They come in, and it's very akin to like Age of Calamity, where the new champions come in and like save their ancestors, and like that made me very happy because it starts with Sidon, I think, which is the first. When I played Age of Calamity, Sidon came in to save Mifa, and I cried real hard. So to see him come in and like do the exact same thing here, it was like, no, really? And I mean, it happens again later, but like this is just like
Ganondorf, my homies are here.
It's so good. And I also like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when he's before and after the fight, when he's talking to you, and he's kind of like spectral almost, like is like big and
he's
whatever.
like big movie poster head, and it's like so scary. It's taking up the whole room.
It gave him like a Dracula sort of vibe or something.
A little bit. It's
Castlevania almost.
I think they were maybe going from the way Ganondorf is shown off in Twilight Princess at the end.
Right.
Like I kind of think the vibe they were going for, the big orangey cloud in Twilight Princess, which does not look good, but looks very good in this because it's the Switch.
He's got the puppet Zelda. Mm-hmm. There's so many things in this that feel like you've got the Phantom Ganon and it's kind of like, if you're thinking of it like Hyrule Castle, it's kind of like in that Aghanim sort of battle, but they're doing the multiple things like Phantom Ganon, like the Pose do in the I guess Phantom Ganon does it too in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
there's a lot of like subtle, like, or not, maybe even not so subtle, but like references or like elements, like referencing and tying in elements from like other games. But obviously it's like, it feels pretty unique too, like the presentation of Phantom Ganon and everything. So I don't know. That goes along with other parts of this game. This game is like that all over, but I love it.
Super cinematic.
I know this wasn't for most of us, but a lot of people probably approached this battle thinking this was the end of the game, like the beginning of the end of the game. And I mean, it kind of is. But people probably entered the Sanctum thinking, like, here we go, final battle, baby, just like Breath of the Wild. And it's like, not quite. There's still some more stuff for you to do.
I like that. It's not. That's a cool little, like,
It's a pretty.
You got more to do.
It's a pretty cool boss battle for just like
for sure,
like mid-late game boss. That's just like a story boss. Like, okay, cool.
I don't even really remember what he says after, but I remember getting the distinct impression of like Ganondorf is talking directly to all of these characters a lot, and I love that so much, because when we see Ganondorf, most of the time he's having like some soliloquy that Link is like an audience member to, pretty much, or he's like directly insulting you, or it's just like some he's being treated with a reverence where he's like this big untouchable baddie. But this is such cool, like, this feels like a movie villain talking to you about stuff. And I think they nailed it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And he's actually saying, like, you don't even know my power. You don't even know who I am. They're like, is this that Ganondorf guy you were talking about? And he's like, fools, all of you.
You stupid. You don't follow me?
Well, he even says, he's like, the powers of the secret stones aren't as strong as I thought they were. And it's like, oh yeah, like he's scared, but he's trying to play it off. And the only person that realizes this is Riju. She is the voice of reason in this group. And she's like, guys, why do you think he would have just taken us out right now if he was powerful enough? He's obviously not. And they're like, oh, yeah. We were thinking that same thing. It's like, no, Riju is the one that thought of that.
Love her.
She's so good.
A little line he says, too, that stood out to me is that he acknowledges, like, you who have been slaying my soldiers mercilessly.
Yeah.
Like, in reference to Link, like, killing all the enemies and killing all the bosses and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a nice little... They're not just treated as fodder. He's like, these are my guys, and you're killing them.
Nice. My homies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is this also the moment in this battle where he shows off what he wants the world to be like? Is that this cutscene?
He shows, I think it's like one of the trailer cutscenes
with the horse
that he shows.
It's the one where his army is descending from like the Blood Moon stuff.
Yeah.
And it's that clip from the trailer where he's like, rise my minions, destroy Hyrule and her allies.
Yeah, that's a really sick cutscene.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Very sick. Even though it's like we've been hearing that for the promos of the game. Like we had already heard that line several times, all of us, because I'm sure we all watched that video over and over and over.
Yeah,
but
it's like the trailer playing behind us in this very moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the presentation, like in the moment, it feels very dour, and it feels like this is bad news. Like, this is what this guy did, and this is what this guy would do if he was allowed to come like back into full power.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky.
It's interesting you were saying how like this could be like the end of the game for some people, or like lead to it. And it is funny because and this is maybe jumping ahead, but like from here on out, there are kind of like, you still have 3, if you haven't done the other main quests, like you still have 3 main quests that could potentially be open, like what they send you to do next. And then there's still the tiers and the depths. There's I think the Koga thing, isn't that like a main?
Is Koga a main quest?
I could be wrong.
Just the beginning of it, I think, is a main quest.
Yeah, investigating is like the main, and then I think doing his full thing might be like a side adventure.
Yeah, I think that's a side adventure.
All I sort of remember is after after doing everything like this episode covers, that then I was talking to someone and they were just started like, oh, okay, you already did this. Okay. Oh, you already did this. Okay. And I sort of felt like, I was thinking like this is sort of the equivalent to like that middle point or whatever, not even middle point in like A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time, where you kind of face down, Ganon for the first time.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's all this stuff in between. But since the game is, you can do it all in whatever order, like I kind of already had done that stuff. So I did that. And then they're like, all right, cool. Well, it's time to go to the end.
Yeah.
I think you're like encouraged to talk to Joshua at this point in the game, where this would kind of lead you down the rest of the Master Koga quest if you hadn't done it. So then you'd figure out, like, I think by doing that quest, it's like, oh, you have to go.
That's after all the Spirit Temple stuff, right?
Depths. Is that after it?
Yeah, because they're like, well, where's Ganondorf?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But that is kind of part of this, because after the castle stuff that we were just talking about, you just go back. It just sends you back to Lookout Landing, and all the sages are standing there, and they're like, wait, how many sages were there? 1, 2. We need another one. It's like no one counted.
Someone's missing. I actually I need to hear from you guys, like, how this is where the goes, because I got the distinct feeling this is very much not how this conversation would normally go.
Okay, so you go back to Lookout Landing.
I think we have some different stories.
We do.
I'll tell mine because I think it's the intended.
Yeah, I think so.
Way. Okay. You go back to Lookout Landing, and they're like, "Oh, there's another sage, and oh, something is going on over. We got to find some ruins that have to do with the sage." So it's like, okay, well, that's the Zonai ruins, which is cool. That was pretty sweet. That it's like, okay, there's some payoff here. Then you go there, and they're like, oh, some doors have opened, so you can go explore new areas. And it leads you to a way to like uncover the Sky Islands that have the Nico storm cloud surrounding them.
My storm cloud.
And then you go up there and then it's a whole adventure. Yeah. It's similar to the Rito area where you're kind of climbing up, trying to get to the top, and that's where you kind of start engaging with that quest. But
would have been pretty cool to do it that way.
I mean, it's pretty cool you did it the other way, I think, too. It's kind of...
I jumped off of the Great Sky Island, flew over, and landed like directly on the shrine. I got lucky, and I started the quest without realizing. I remember like I got down there, I was like, cool, a shrine in the storm cloud. And then I leave the area, I find some vines, I cut through, and I'm like... Now, mind you, this is after 2 dungeons. I have done 2 dungeons at this point. I had done Rito and Zora, not in that order, other way around. And I was just like, I want to go to my storm cloud. And I see the door in there on the island, and I was like, wait, that's like the door from the Temple of Time. That's like a big story door. Let's try opening it. So I just opened it right away, and I had enough hearts. And I talked to the little mask thing and I start a main quest, and I was like, wait, what just happened? And then I just did the whole thing. So it was awesome. my third dungeon.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I felt like I was gonna explain how I did, and you guys are gonna be like, oh, come on, that's crazy.
This is the one that I think most people broke the sequence on, just out of sheer curiosity.
It's kind of like sprinkled throughout the whole thing, pretty much. Even like from the floating ring ruins, like the first time you visit Kakariko, if you're following that all the way through, it's like the last one is up there, and they're like, well, Zelda said we can't go there. But you have in the back of your head the whole time, like, something's up there.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about that.
Oh, I didn't even mention that part. That's part of the, the lead up to figure it out.
After you tell Paya and Toro that, sorry, got distracted there. That Zelda was fake. And they're like, oh, crap, we got to go look at the ruins. It's like, yeah, of course you do.
That's what's funny is, like, I did the Dragon's Tears full quest, like, before I did most things in the game. So like I got there and I'm like, no, that's not Zelda. Link, tell her that's not Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, though, with what especially you've done, Corey, is like I feel like none of the things. Well, some of the things are a little ridiculous, like what you did without the paraglider. A lot of the things you've attempted, like going down to the end game area and stuff like that, isn't something that, like, I wouldn't think is, like, someone wouldn't think to do. You know what I mean? And I think it's kind of cool, actually, that that's a possibility. It kind of stinks that, you don't see, like, the story unfold the way they sort of want you to encourage it, but I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's cool that, like, you have that ability to just go up there and, like Nico said, I've just activated a main quest.
It still shows off the 4 pillars of Wead. You're still exploring, which I think is one of those ones. You're still discovering. Like, you're still playing Zelda. It might not be as intended, but how many shrines did you do as intended? You play this game your own way, and that's what I love about it so much. It doesn't matter if you break a sequence. The game lets you. That's the coolest part. It just lets you.
I do.
So, I want to talk about this part because I did think it was really cool when I first did it that I was able to get there. Probably not as intended, but as I continued along the game and eventually realized the intended sequence, I was pretty disappointed that I did it the way I did it, because I think it would have been really cool if I had done it the way it was intended, because like we've been talking about, this is kind of a mystery Zelda game where you're trying to figure out what's going on with this Princess Zelda that's appearing, and like the 4 quests to go, the regional phenomena are you going out and investigating and gathering evidence, along with the Lucky Clover Gazette side quest with all the stables. You're gathering all this evidence that you can eventually bring back, and I guess the tears, the story, the cutscenes as well. And that kind of all culminates in like hey, this isn't Zelda. You guys, this isn't Zelda. So you go to the ring ruins, like, we shouldn't be listening to this advice from Zelda. So we should just be able to go up to this ring ruin, because obviously there's something in there that this fake Zelda doesn't want us to know about. So you get there, you find out the stuff about the 5th sage, and then that takes you to the Zonai ruins area, which was an area I was like, is there going to be something in this game that's like a more story focused thing? And there is, but I missed that by not going in the intended sequence. I did that at the end, but it was kind of like, well, I already know what's up there. I already went up there. It did clear up the islands so I could go and explore a bit more, but the cool part had already happened, I think. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on it because I do think it's cool that I could do it out of order, but I wish that I had experienced it in the intended order.
Sure, I totally get that. Yeah,
I think the game could account for it a little bit better, like, because it does account for a lot of things, and we've kind of pointed that out a lot. Like, people will point it out, but other times it feels like, oh, they just like they had to be like, they just had to like think like, oh, you already did this, and it feels very much like kind of video gamey. And it seems like, I don't know, like if you're going up there and skipping that sequence, then there should be something similar like what Corey was saying, where like if you go to other parts of the game, then it should be like that ring ruins thing shouldn't then be a factor because you've completed it. Like I think the game could account a little bit better for like, you know, okay, like, all right, you kind of foiled this Zelda's plan, so like maybe they can drop the act. You know what I mean?
So I feel a little differently because I feel like I was able to experience all the main cool story stuff in the way that you still get most of that stuff. And I've obviously been doing most of the game in like a weird order. So I've been able to see like characters' reactions and stuff like that. And this was definitely, I did the same thing you guys did. I went up to Dragon Head Island, got the mask before like doing any of that stuff. So I followed that all the way through. But like I actually kind of like that this whole chunk of the game that like would have naturally been like characters hinting you, oh, go talk to this person that's in this real world worrying about this thing. And they lead you to this area where they're discovering this new thing that activates something that would lead you to doing that. I was like honestly in disbelief. That's why I needed to ask what Pura actually says in that scene, because if you have already done that, she didn't direct me to Kakariko Village at all, unless I completely missed it. She basically said,
I will say the actual quest, if you haven't done it, is still very, very vague. It's like we've got to figure out what to do next. And then they kind of just leave it at that and hope that you know about the ring ruins.
Well, that's kind of what I like, is that I only knew about the ring runes because that was something that has been in the back of my head since I went to Kakariko. That was because that's a lore thing, and you know I'm like a lore nerd, so I was like, I gotta know what's in that dang floating ring ruin.
Yeah.
So
well, they do say something like we got to check out some more ruins. They say that. So it did take me. That's why I said Zonai earlier to Nico's point, because when they said that, I went, oh, the Zonai ruins, and I went there and I was like, that's not it. And I stopped for a second and I was like, what the? And then I immediately was like, oh, it's the ring ruins. Duh.
Yeah.
When I was having that conversation, it essentially went, she was getting along that path, and then Link does his little talking animation, and they're basically all like, what? You already found the fifth sage? What? You already have the Master Sword?
Yeah.
What? You already did all this stuff? And then Pura does her like, okay, well, I guess all that's left to do is go beat Ganondorf. So why don't you go and fulfill Zelda's last wish and punch him in the face for me, or whatever she says. And I was like, okay, that's my cue to go to the end of the game, like to go finish what I'm doing. Because also I had already done, like I said, I already done Dragon's Tears, already gotten Mineru, already all that junk. But in my head, I was like, well, I need to know what the ring ruin's about. So I went there myself and found Toro and what's his name, Caleb or whatever, like talking about this stuff. And then finally I get to explain to them that it wasn't real Zelda. And then they lead you down this whole rabbit hole of going to the Zonai ruins and activating the whole thing. And in my mind, I was like, that's baffling to me. That I could have just like, if this wasn't already in my head, I would have completely missed all of this.
So
like in my head, I like that though, because that actually does feel real world to me. Because Pura is not going to be like, oh, well, the last thing left to do is go beat the bad guy, but maybe you should talk to Toro, and because they have something for you to do with the with the Zonai ruins.
It's like that's not her concern. Yeah,
I didn't complete that main quest until after beating the game. In my journey to 100%ing, I'm like, I'm missing a main quest. I was like, what main quest am I missing? And then I realized there has to have been something to clear the storm. And so then I went back and was like, okay, the ring runes, here we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Finished out, which was a very cool quest. And I got to actually like fully explore all of that and like get all the shrines and everything. But
that was one of the many moments though, like in the game where like after that conversation's done and you get control of Link again, it's like new main quest, the 5th sage, and then it's like main quest, the 5th sage complete.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes.
I did that, and then they're like, oh, and you've got the Master Sword. Oh, and you've talked to Joshua, that's so I was like,
yeah.
But otherwise, I played this though pretty much like I was saying, I was on the roads. And I pretty much, I was like, I'm not really going to explore. Like, I was like, that's what I haven't hit the labyrinths yet because I was like, no, my playthrough style this time was like, I'm going to go somewhere when someone tells me to go there because there's a ton of crap to explore. It's going to take me forever to explore every inch of this map. So I'm just going to see like what the game thinks I should do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I did most of the things like that. But the only thing, and we'll talk about it in a future episode, the only thing I did like sort of, but not really early was I got like the Master Sword after getting all the memories or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think the way it handles the Master Sword is nice because there's kind of 2 separate things that lead you there. But it still feels like it doesn't feel weird if you don't do it, the other way. You can kind of get there through doing the Dragon Tears, which is how you did it. But there's also the main quests will finally lead you there because I think Mineru will tell you to go to Korok Forest if you haven't gone there, and then
save the Deku
tree. The
Deku
Tree will basically tell you exactly where it is.
Another
but
memory.
You can also go to the Korok Forest a lot earlier, which is what I did, and still gives you that quest. And it did, it's kind of the way I expected because of how you found it in Breath of the Wild. And I was like, the Deku Tree's got to know about the Master Sword.
That's his expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
He's the expert.
We've skipped ahead though. We should actually talk about because you get them. That's like a mask thing. I thought this was really fun
on Dragonhead Isle.
In Dragonhead Isle,
which was fun to explore the normal way. I will say too. It was like I said, reminiscent of. I like the sky like platform ascending.
Yeah, me too.
Regions. Those are fun, but I really like those puzzles like this one where you have. This one you had to take it from the sky and bring it all the way down to the depths, basically.
To the depths, baby.
Yeah, down like this little elevator thing.
Yeah, it was weird.
You have to fly it down to. And there's something just so. I love all those quests with the little green crystals.
Yeah,
like there's just, there's something just so fun about like I'm attaching this thing to a wing or whatever, and like. I just hope I don't crash.
Yeah. It's like the good version of like an escort quest, but you don't have to like sit around and wait for the person to slowly walk. You just grab the thing and go.
Something.
Yeah,
you're fully in charge of the pace.
Yes, which is nice.
It's like the classic ball in Eagles Tower.
Yes, exactly.
You gotta bring it everywhere.
Ball.
It's always the ball in Eagles Tower. The world is your tower. But yeah, you bring it down and you lower down into the Construct Factory, which I have been listening to the soundtrack for this entire time on repeat because it is gorgeous. It is so somber and mysterious and very cool. So big shout out to the music here. If y'all haven't listened to it, you should because it's very interesting. It's a totally different vibe than almost anything else in the game. But so is this whole section of the game.
We sort of mentioned in other episodes how they kind of surprise you in how each like each region is like you kind of do the same things with different puzzles, but like you know, like you do a dungeon, you fight a boss, but they kind of always change it up a little bit. Like how we talked about how you have to fight a big monster to go into the volcano, you know, before even getting to the dungeon. And this, you get to the thing where it's like how the dungeons are in this, where it's like get the 4 things, but it's like in the overworld, in the depths, you know, like we haven't even gotten to the official dungeon, but we're kind of doing the dungeon.
The dungeon portion of the dungeon is not in the dungeon.
No, yeah.
But it's very cool. So I would consider the Construct Factory more of the dungeon than the actual Spirit Temple. The Spirit Temple is a temple, not the dungeon. You know? Yeah. But these puzzles are hard. They're fun. But when at the marathon, McKenna and I were up pretty late. Pretty late. It was very early in the morning, and we were doing this portion, and we were like, "Oh, yeah, I don't think we can do it."
Some of these made me feel
I was okay with like most of it, but there's the one that was like the electrified
pillar that's like falling over
thing, and we could just not get it. I was like, what is going on?
We're like, we know how to do it and it's not working, so I had to cheese it because it was like 4 a.m.
That was a fun one.
Like all those puzzles are really cool too, because it's like it's staying along in this same vein of like, here's this precious object, you just need to take it with you over there. And the puzzle is, how do I get this with me over there?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as the mask, it's the same thing as the ball. And it's like they do this so much in this game. Where every time I have these, I'm like, what in the world would happen if I like lost this? Because I'm like, is it going to stay lost wherever I put it, or is it going to reset?
What's fun is that you can set it as an auto build, and so you can always have it as like an auto build if you want to favorite it.
That's so crazy.
They really, every moment of this game, they trade you for this. Like, when you have a Korok and you need to get
you know,
from here to there, you know?
You know what's kind of wild to me is that in this last trailer of Tears of the Kingdom, they straight up showed us this construct.
Yeah.
And we were all like, what is this big spooky boss in the underground? We don't know what that's going to be. Turns out it's a freaking sage, and we had no idea.
Yeah, that's the prompt for this whole thing we didn't mention, is that you bring the head down and a voice starts talking to you and is like, we're going to build me a body.
Yeah.
Go get the parts.
Awesome.
I built one before and it didn't work out, so we need another one.
Yeah.
And then you get to control a mech.
Well, I wanted to say, when you're moving that block around too, what's fun about it, like the blocks that contain them, is like sometimes you're like, okay, I'm attaching it to this thing and I'm going to have it skedaddle on over here or whatever. But then other times it's like, I had it where it's like, oh, I'm going to make this into the vehicle. Like, I'm going
to put some tires on this and bring it.
You put the tires directly on it. You make it float in the water directly.
So I don't know. I just like it went from like I'm escorting it to it's escorting me.
Yeah.
You know, like that was just a lot of fun.
Before we leave the Construct Factory, and I'll talk about my order of events after, just because I think it'll be fun to go over. But like, I came here well before this.
Oh, me too.
All the stuff is like already active, already moving. You just can't. You go to the little gates, which let you open up the pillars that have the body parts in them, and it just gives you big, like, no, can't do that.
Yeah.
So they just don't open, but you can use Ultra Hand and, like, move the body part inside there. And I'm like, let me get this thing out. Like, you can move it around, but you just can't do anything with it. But the other stuff in the rooms is all already active. Like, all the mechanisms and stuff are moving. So I actually went through all of the depots and did all of the puzzles and got all the extra goodies before I ever came here.
Oh my god!
So oh my gosh!
Typical Corey.
When I came back through, it was just going through again, but this time with a thing. Which, to be fair, that is the main. Like I just said, that actually didn't spoil the enjoyment for me, because the main puzzle is, how do I get object A to that location? You know?
Yeah, it's cool. It is
as
also
Nico
cool that
said-
the actual construct factory is like the big puzzle is constructing things. So it's like it lives up to its name, which is cool.
It's in the theme. The Zonai stuff, cool payoff there.
Cool.
But you build a mech.
Yeah, it's like this is where.
Yeah, you build a mech. You build a whole freaking mech that you get to ride on, and you fuse different objects to.
I didn't. Once I got it with like just cannons all around, I was like, all right, this is. I never rode it again unless I had to. And I was like, you follow me and you
rode it
blast
again
them.
once.
Yeah, I didn't use a lot.
Yeah.
But it was pretty.
Like
it was pretty.
It's very cool though.
It's very nice. Riding Mineru the construct is very nice for exploring certain areas of the depths because you don't have to worry. You can break boulders. You don't have to worry about going over the gloom.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is cool. Is that's the whole next section? Is like, all right, we got to go this way, and you're basically just barreling through with a robot breaking boulders and stuff. Which I'll tell you after.
This portion, I will say, was a little obnoxious because it's a lot of like, Link, look over there. You'll notice a fan. It's like, yeah, I've been doing this stuff already. It's okay. You don't have to tell me this crap.
I had a hard time with this section.
It was a little tough, but it was very tutorial-y.
There's like some horriblins at the very beginning, and I kept getting killed by them. Eventually, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna run by these guys. Then I almost ran straight past the Hinox, but decided to fight it. And that was the first Hinox in the game that I beat.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
That is cool.
Yeah, I had the thing like Nico was saying, getting stopped, and it's like, try the fan or whatever. And I tried the fan. I'm like, okay, just
you walk a little bit faster. Okay.
Yeah. It is cool though that like all these, it is very guided. Like we have to stop here and we have to stop here and look at these enemies. But like it's
very Mineru.
It's neat though that these little octagon shaped pit stops that have little supplies that we've been seeing the entire game. Which feel very much like the Zonai version of like the Hyrule restoration materials, kind of. But it's like, oh, these are like my own personal robot pit stops. Like they knew I was going to be coming with a robot in case I needed to get some extra pieces and stuff.
Well, and I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but this is not the only construct in the game. We see 3 of this same style of construct throughout the main stories of the game. So like, this is a normal construct. I mean, this whole factory is designed around the idea of building this design of a construct. So in the depths, they were using them for like excavation and for exploration. And they were that's why all that stuff is there. Like, because they would use these a bunch in the depths, which is cool. That's why there's a whole factory for
them. At the end of all this though, is when we get to the spirit temple itself.
The weirdest spirit temple I think we'll ever see in the Zelda series.
I love the owl statues.
The owl stuff is very cool. I'm a fan.
It's sort of a temple / boxing arena.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
It's so cool though, because like the whole, I think it was after the battle. I was like, I was just curious if there was anything else to explore there. There isn't really, but like that whole big room, it's like a weird spherical shape with these little like alcoves. It gave me big like Star Wars Senate vibes from the prequels. With all that, like they're floating in that big spherical room with all the little like.
To me, it just
balconies
felt
and stuff.
Like a tomb, which I think is what it's supposed to be, being the spirit temple. But there are also a lot of Poe. There's a lot of Poe in here.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
good spot for Poe. But yeah,
I think I kind of bought everything I wanted with Poes already. So,
but then you can just keep buying bomb flowers. That's what I do. You just keep getting Poes. You buy bomb flowers.
I've not done that. I've had an excess of Poes for so long.
Just buy bomb flowers, dude.
Dang, I forgot.
But yeah, you finally you get through the portion where you're escorting or using Mineru's construct to get to the spirit temple. You go down in, and then you see the old construct that she tried to use previously, and it has been taken over by Gloom. The seized construct, and it's the boss battle of the dungeon temple quest.
Big Blight vibes.
And you get into
Big time Blight vibes. Big time Blight vibes.
Construct Blight.
Big time Blight
Construct
vibes. Construct Blight. Yeah.
This fight, out of all the fights, it's a little, it's more like gimmicky than all.
Okay, but it's hard. Like. If you don't use cannons the entire time, it is a hard fight. I mean, once you figure out cannons,
very easy.
Once you figure that out, it's fine. But it's hard. It's a hard battle, but it's fun. I loved it.
It was for me more hard in like that certain Zelda way of just like figuring out what the like strat I'm supposed to do is. Yeah. Because I kept trying different things and I was like not as effective. And I'm like, come on. And
you gotta block.
I get it.
The blocking is slow.
Like once I figured out the mechanics,
that's so cool,
I had taken a lot of damage.
I know.
But yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but it's very gimmicky, and it feels almost like it doesn't fit, but it's just like, so you're doing a boxing match in 2 mechs. Like, that's so sick.
No, it's kind of what I hoped would happen at some point in the game.
This is like a cool element of gameplay that, like, yeah, why not bring it back? Why not put it in somewhere else? Make a mini game with this. Let us like box a bunch of different opponents.
This is far from the weirdest thing we've seen in a Zelda game. Like, of course we were gonna have a mech boxing match in the middle of the Spirit Temple.
It's like Rock'em Sock'em Constructs.
Yeah, Rock'em Sock'em Constructs.
This way, this is skipping ahead again a little bit, but because I thought this was fun. But what it made me almost wish was that I hadn't already done all the Koga stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this is, like you mentioned, this is great for exploring the depths, which I probably will go back and like check out more stuff because I didn't.
You totally should.
Get a lot of light roots and stuff. I got
also the Yiga hideouts are really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Those are cool.
But then the other thing I sort of thought was like, I was like, oh man, maybe there should have been like a little bit more along this quest line. You know what I mean? Like how you couldn't do this until, you could do it, but it wouldn't trigger until, doing the other ones. I'm like, what if this triggered like, and this sounds crazy because the game is already super long, but like a couple more dungeons, maybe even.
Yeah, some like underground dungeons.
Some more depth dungeons.
Yeah, that would be.
There was one other time where I rode the construct, and it was in the final Master Koga encounter.
Yep.
That I used I know you, Goo, you did the final Master Koga battle before you went to the Spirit Temple.
Because I was trying to I did it a lot before because I was trying to kind of pepper that in. I didn't want to progress in that too far comparatively to the main dungeons, and I didn't want to progress the main dungeons. Like I was trying to do them like, okay, Koga's over here now. I'll go do that. Okay, now a dungeon. Like I thought those were things that were supposed to meant to be more, weave together. But then that's why it was funny when I had finished both, and they're like, "All right, great, you did both the quests." I'm like, "Oh, this would have actually been
cool,
more fun to do." I should have just ignored the depths, But it's, that's cool. It's a strength of the game, though. I think,
I finished the Koga quest without the construct, and I liked the battle, the challenge of the battle without the construct.
I agree. I think it makes it tougher.
It does.
I did all the Koga stuff, like all of it, before my second dungeon. I did all that before I went to the water temple.
Wow.
I was on a huge tear of exploring the depths.
You explored the depths a lot.
Wow. In the beginning I did, and then I kind of ignored it for the rest of the thing.
There's so much.
But once you beat the thing in the fight, and then you get Mineru. She's on our side, and now we got a mech.
There's also
we haven't even mentioned Mineru is Raru's sister, by the way.
Yeah, older sister.
That wasn't revealed before.
It might
we knew.
I think just in the tiers, which we haven't discussed.
Okay. We'll have a video on tiers
of the kingdom.
We'll have a talk in tiers talk.
Talking tears talk.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I knew that already because I did the tears, and then he was like, "Let's go talk to my sister."
Yeah.
So yeah.
But overall, Mineru's character is very interesting for a lot of reasons, but the main one being that she's so... I'm trying to think of like the proper word to describe her, like still. She's very courageous, but very... I don't know, still stoic? For some reason is the word. Yes, stoic. She's so smart and like such a cool character that has a great payoff as being a sage. And
that is cool.
Like the fact that she, and I mean, this is revealed when her spirit comes out to live in the construct, but she's been living as a spirit in the Purapad for 10,000 years.
That's cool. That's a neat little, like, it's kind of like, sure, okay, why not? I guess there's been a spirit in my Purapad the whole time, but like, that's cool though.
It's so cool.
Like this character's spirit has been here the whole time.
You're telling me there's a spirit in my Purapad?
I like Mineru more in the memories, like when we actually see her as she was and talking and stuff. I don't really associate the construct as much with Mineru. I'm more just like, this is my pet robot. But it's a cool like plot idea, idea that
Corey, you haven't
been waiting to aid.
You haven't finished the game, right?
No, I just have to go beat. Yeah.
Okay.
She feels like the link between this past Hyrule.
The what? She's the link. The what?
Dun, dun, dun.
You know what?
Yes.
I'm gonna drop a hot take.
Between this yeah.
What's your hot take?
She was the one I cared like the least about. I think it's because the other ones were my homies from the last game.
Yeah.
And then I saw the tears with her early on, and then I wouldn't say forgot about them, but I was like, oh, she, you know, like the main one that stood out was when they were just like, let's go talk to her, and she gave us some background info,
some hot goss.
And I think stuff happens with her in the tears.
I just don't. Yeah, well,
it wasn't very memorable.
A little. She's kind of like exposition-y. She she introduces the draconification concept, and then she's the one to kind of be Zelda's voice for her in the present when she comes back to be like, "Hey, this is what's going on." You get the one unique after boss cutscene.
Yeah.
I think if I had done this part earlier and I was hanging out with her more, I'd have more of a feeling about her. But I'm more endeared to my homies from Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
I think that's fair.
And now they're back and we're hanging out some more. And Tulin was just blowing me around Hyrule
the whole time.
And then, then I got this robot that I was like, I'm very endeared to the characters via gameplay.
And my goat man friend's sister is in there.
That's true.
I'm not trying to diss the character necessarily. I'm okay with it, but I was definitely more.
I think I think her character is kind of a little bit like not super dynamic, mostly just because we see about her in the memories, and compared to these characters who we saw in another game. And they had exposition there, and now time has passed, and we've seen how they've developed, and they're our friends. I think it makes way more sense.
Okay, but 10,000 years developed for Mineru, and you don't think that's enough?
No, she was just waiting. She was on standby.
I think it's enough that I'm like, she needs to go lie down.
Yeah.
Maybe you should check it out. I'll just take the robot for myself, thanks.
It reminded me a little bit of another character that I like. So just to be clear, but it reminded me of Nibiru a little bit. Whereas the other characters in Ocarina of Time, you meet them once, you become sworn brothers, and then you go help them again, 7 years in the future.
Yeah.
But then like Nibiru shows up at the end of the game, and it's like ends up having a good story, and I think Mineru does too, but it's a little less impactful to me because
it's fair. Yeah, you're not as attached because she's
hey,
just like,
let's get this in at the last minute,
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the last minute of the game. Other than I went to Korok Forest and hung out with some Koroks.
The one thing I do want to attribute to Mineru is that she very much plays the role of the OG researcher.
Yeah.
She's like the past day Pura, right?
If anyone's going to be in the pad,
into all this stuff,
it's Mineru.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I cared more about Mineru than the old sages because we don't even get to see their faces. But we hear them talk just as much. You know, they all have their whole section leading up to the dungeon, and then the same cutscene every time afterwards, where they talk and they say their little portion. And those sages are like, I want to know more about them. Because Mineru, we learned a lot. We get to see the beginning, middle, and end of her story. But I want to see the sage's stories. Like, what struggles did the sage... I think I mentioned this in our last video, maybe. That I want to know what the struggle of the sages were. And it doesn't have to be DLC stuff. I just, want to know what they went through. We don't even know their names. Although, I would not be surprised if they were literally named, Ruda, Meadow, Rudania, and Naboris. Cool. Those might be the 4 sages' names, and it would make complete sense. But
I'm still in the camp of
I don't know.
I would have gone. I would have liked it if they were just more vague. If they just had no lines.
Yeah, I'm kind of I agree that they weren't mysterious. I agree that they weren't utilized well, but I also agree I don't really want to know more about them.
Yeah. Because they're in that weird middle ground, it's like, okay, we know enough now that I want to know more.
Yeah.
But if they had been, if they'd been super vague and never said anything and were just the ancient sages, that would have been fine. But it's like, you said some stuff. Can we at least see your face? Or know your name? Who are you?
It would have been funny, though, if it was just the exact same cutscene, but the one was just I am your ancient ancestor. My name is Steve. The rest of it's just the same. It's
whoa, that's my ancient ancestor, Steve. He had the power of wind.
Just so they could have a name on their half a page long wiki page that has the 2 lines that say.
Woof.
Yeah. Come on, they should have for Wiki's sake.
Yeah,
for Wiki's sake. Come on. Heck? All right. Well, this portion, right? I mean, that's the Spirit Temple. Afterwards, Mineru either leads you to the Deku Tree, or if you've already done that, it starts and completes the quest, and then you can go to the depths, to Ganondorf.
Or after this, you can do
the other dungeons.
The desert.
Or do 2 other dungeons.
Yep.
So I don't know what we're gonna do next. We'll have to talk about it.
Before we clock out, I want to go over my sequence
of events the clock, as they
happened. All right. All right. Well, listen.
Didn't we establish this already?
Not fully, no.
Okay.
Because
Corey,
this was the most egregious that I did things out of order.
Do we need another drink? Gosh, come on.
Maybe. I'll try and be brief. Remember in the Water Temple video when I said, I think I've stumbled into every dungeon in the game? Mm-hmm. I didn't mean so far. I meant I thought I had gone into every single dungeon in the game. That's because I thought the Spirit Temple was the dungeon where we were going to bring Riju there. Because I was like, Spirit Temple, Gerudo. That makes sense.
Fair.
It's going to be weird how we get her over here. But I was already in there floating around before I did my second dungeon. And I was like, I got to go do the Water Temple because we're going to record later. I did the Water Temple. I came back. I went west. And that's that whole area where you're walking through. And it's a giant hallway with the Hinox where there's all those boulders that you're supposed to smash through coming the opposite way with Mineru. I broke all those boulders by myself, cleared the whole thing out, went that way and found the Construct Factory. And that's when I was there the first time. I was going through the depots. I was doing all those puzzles, getting all the extra little goodies. And I was like, I can't do stuff here yet, clearly. So I left. Later on in the game is when I had already tried exploring the Thunderhead Isles. And I was like, it's cloudy in here. I can't see nothing. So I left. And I came back.
Okay, this is even crazier now.
I came back after that. I came back after I had explored the Construct Factory stuff. And I got on the Dragonhead Isle first, from basically that little ramp where it's set up with a wing and the mask where you can go off of, like basically where it's directing you. And I was hugging the wall, and I was like, there's got to be a door or something here. I didn't come from above. I came from below. I used ascend and went up and was just walking around in the darkness, in the cloud, basically.
God, Corey.
And I fell down the top and found the shrine, and then found the mask, and then followed the mask down to the depths, and then did the construct factory. And after the construct factory, you're like taking Mineru and you're going that way. And I'm just walking down this empty hallway that I already cleared of boulders and took her to the spirit temple and did all that stuff. I did that.
The hall clear.
I at least did that portion after I did the fire temple. So this construct factory and spirit temple, although I had been there, were technically like my 4th dungeon. And then after that, I went to the desert. Like I hadn't even been in.
Yeah.
I hadn't been near Gerudo Town at all before this.
Wow.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Not only do you do things out of order, you do them literally backwards, which is truly impressive.
That's what I mean too, and that was the most baffling thing. Is after that, I went to the desert. I did the whole Gerudo stuff. You can watch our Gerudo video. We talked about the way I did all that stuff. And then after that, I went to Lookout Landing, did the Hyrule Castle stuff, came back, had the chat, and Puro was like, "Cool, go beat Ganondorf." And I was like, "But wait a minute, what about that big cloud up there? Like, is that going to stay cloudy forever? And what about the floating ring ruin? I got to go check this out myself." So I talked to Toro, and I followed that entire sequence after Pura already told me to go. Oh my gosh.
So you still followed it, yeah.
So I finished this sequence by coming backwards down Thunderhead Isles. And that's the last thing I did in this sequence.
If someone could piece together what Corey did and how Corey did it from all these videos, I think you laid it out here.
I want to watch your hero's path. I just want to watch it.
It's hard to
I think
follow.
you're the only hero's path that I would actually be interested in seeing.
We should show a picture of all ours at the end.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe not go through them, but just like
just a screenshot of the final one. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you put too many hours in.
Start cutting it off. I think I'm right at the edge.
Well, okay. I think that's good for now. I think we should wrap this one up.
Yes.
And we'll talk. We're probably not gonna go to and talk about the end yet.
Not quite yet. Let's wait a little bit. We have some other things we can talk about.
Some time. Yeah. We're gonna talk about
the depths. We could talk about the tiers.
Depths and Koga, Tears, Master Sword. We could talk about
Clover Gazette.
Yeah.
And the towns, stables. Yeah. We'll come back to some of those before we get to the end of the game. So if you're trying not to be fully spoiled, you haven't quite gotten there yet, then
finish the game.
You're gonna be good for a little bit, but finish it.
Last thing I wanted to do for all of us, which was something I was going to suggest last time, but I forgot. Now that we've all done all the dungeons, let's each individually do our own quick little power ranking.
Okay.
What's your ranking of the dungeons?
Okay.
Including like Construct Factory, Spirit Temple counts as one.
Okay.
I wrote this down once, and I've already forgotten.
Would say, water. I'm going from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
Water, wind, construct, lightning, fire. Fire is, I think, the best one.
Okay.
If I'm going from the bottom, and I'm big time taking bosses into account here, like big time taking bosses into account, because that's a major thing for me, I'd probably say water, going from bottom to top again. Water, spirit, fire, lightning, wind. Wind being my top.
Okay.
What about you, Michaela?
I feel like I haven't decided between
You want me to go?
wind and water for my bottom. I like the overall presentation of wind better, but I think I like a lot of the puzzles in water better. So I think because I like puzzles in my Zelda dungeons, I'm gonna put water above wind. So I'm gonna go wind, water, spirit, lightning, fire.
All right. Mine is, I would put construct, spirit at the bottom, then wind, then water, then fire, then lightning. That's okay. Mine, I think. With wind and water also.
Lightning definitely the highest performing. Lightning and fire, the highest performing dungeons there.
2 lightnings, or 1 lightning, 2 fire.
And 1 wind. Number 1, baby. Colgera is just too strong. That will always hold as my favorite.
That's definitely my favorite boss.
Yeah, it was enough for me with the story and everything to just pin it as my favorite with the dungeon and everything.
I want to dive into this sort of topic more too. Like maybe when we're talking about the end, we can talk about the game overall, but like, you know, how we'll get into it more because I feel like this could be another 40-minute conversation about how these stack up, you know, with 100%. Other Zelda games.
Tune in 3 years when we hit these dungeons in Gooey's Dungeon Dive.
It seems a little early.
Yeah.
Tune in 7 years.
Gosh. I don't even want to think about these ones. That's so far. Okay. Let's get out of here. Thanks everyone for watching. Go look at all our links down in the description. Let us know what you thought. Links.
Check out the socials.
Links.
Check out the TikTok. Check out the Discord.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Great use of Zoom. Spicy. Yeah, get the Discord. We have a channel for us. You can come tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think.
All right. Sure. Well, see everybody in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.